View from the Gutters, Episode 18. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. In this episode, we discuss Hellboy, Masks and Monsters. And, to skip ahead to the recommendations, skip to 4048. Alright, welcome to View from the Gutters. This week we're doing the Batman, Hellboy, Starman, Batman, Hellboy, Ghost,
I like to call it Man Boy Man.
Yeah. That episode, I'm Andrew Chard.
Boy Man.
Boy Man Man. That works too. I'm good with that. I'm Joe Preti, I think. That's what they tell me.
Boy Man, Ghost Man.
I'm Tobiah Panshin the last time I checked.
I'm Cade Reynolds.
And
Can you prove that?
Yeah.
I know I brought you here today, but I'm worried.
We're gonna need ID.
We're gonna need.
We started carding at the podcast apparently when I wasn't
Dude,
around.
hey, it's not my fault. How do I know that Cade wasn't kidnapped and replaced with an exact robot duplicate?
That's true. That technology does exist.
And
I'm secretly a Cylon.
does it really make a difference?
Right.
I mean, maybe Robot Cade is better than real Cade.
I don't know. I like Cade.
Well, I'm sure that he's much stronger.
Yeah,
Maybe. I'm
well-
assuming. I actually have no idea. I've
Actually,
never
I'm
seen
pretty sure
Cade
that
lift
the
a
original
car.
Cade has the strength of 40 tigers.
I'm pretty sure he does.
And
That
Blood
could
of
be.
Fire.
All I know is that I want to be an Adrian Barbeau bot.
Yeah.
For
Sure.
like
That's
the,
because that's not a dated reference.
that's not a dated
Cool.
for the 10 people that got that reference. I want chainsaw arms.
Well, who doesn't want chainsaw arms, to be honest, though?
The
The last time I
Ash
saw that
got a
can
episode,
only
chainsaw.
be baboon size.
that's true. That's true.
They
I-
don't come any bigger than that.
I think the last time I saw that episode, I was on some kind of illicit substance that allows you to see into the fourth dimension, and that episode was amazing.
I can only
It
imagine.
was-
It's
It was amazing.
what the fuck was that even called?
C-Lab
C-Lab.
2021.
I kept thinking Sequest, and I knew that wasn't fucking right. This is how tired I am.
Sequest is on
Sequest
Netflix,
is a
though.
show, though, right?
It was a
That
show.
It was,
like
with
a-
Jonathan Brandis.
It was
Yeah.
actually Sequest like 2032.
It was Sequest DSV, and then it was like
Yeah,
Sequest blah 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 blah.
C-Trek 90210.
C-Trek, yeah, that's what it was.
Nice.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's C-Lab 2021.
Yeah.
It was
Amazing cartoon.
Yes,
Of course.
Yes, it is.
All
From Adam Reed, Adam Reed's first cartoon, who's doing Archer now. You might have heard of
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
It's pretty popular
All
with,
right.
with the kids. But now we're talking about Batman, Hellboy, Starman.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about Hellboy, Masks and Monsters, which
Right.
is the collection of both Batman, Hellboy, Starman, and Hellboy,
Hellboy
Ghost.
Hellboy goes, Starman goes, Batman.
There's no
Bat
star.
goes,
There's
Star
no
Boy.
Star Boy.
Star goes to Hellman.
Man boy man.
Hellboy, it's Hellman, Man, and Starbat.
Okay, this is
That's
already
awful.
off to an amazing
Starting
start.
over. Welcome to View from the Gutters.
We're not doing that again.
I know.
They've called your bluff, John.
I know.
They know that you're not.
They
gonna
know
do
that I don't start it over.
Okay. Let's talk first about Batman, Hellboy, Starman.
All right.
So, Joe, what did you think about it?
I really enjoyed the shit out of this. There is a panel a few pages in after it's like Hellboy pops up and he's like, Batman, you need my help, and Batman's like, oh, Batman, and then he's like, yeah, I know you're Batman, but I'm Hellboy, and he's like, okay, it's cool, and then they like run off together to go fight the bad guys, and they jump off the roof, and it's like Batman and Hellboy, and it's just. I think it just epitomizes what is amazing about this comic, which is that it's Batman and Hellboy. All right,
Yeah.
They're just like, I mean, it's you have Batman who's this kind of like finely honed katana, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Hellboy, it's just like a fucking wrecking ball.
Yeah, he's like a
just
large hammer.
I'm just gonna smash things until somebody tells me what's going on, and that's great. It's endearing.
the dialogue in that panel is really hilarious
Oh,
too.
God,
And it's
yes.
like, "Are you coming?" And then he's like, "It's a long way down." Hellboy's like, "It's okay, I fall down a lot."
Yeah, right?
Perfect. He's like, "Yeah, he does."
Was great, but I gotta say, I fucking hated this.
Really?
Okay, so you know how like they'll do a sitcom or a TV show, and then they'll do a spin-off.
Yeah.
And the spin-off has a completely different flavor, but then a
Yeah.
character from the original show will make a guest star, and it's really incongruent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, reading this, it was totally like, this is a Hellboy story in which Batman makes a really incongruous cameo for 5 minutes.
Yeah, this.
I can
And there were
see
some
that.
really great. There were a few really good panels. There were some really funny jokes, but this is by no means a Batman story in any fucking.
No,
Totally agree.
This is 100% a Hellboy story in which a guy dressed as Batman appears.
I think that it's noteworthy too that I'm pretty sure this is James Robinson's first attempt at writing Batman. I'm pretty sure because I think this is before any JSA, any of that crossover. So if it's not his first, it's like pretty early on in his DC because most of what he wrote before this was Starman. So he nails Starman, and I think that his handling of Hellboy is really good. But I totally agree with Toby on this that sometimes Batman doesn't feel super Batman-like.
Yeah, and he totally like ditches out of the story 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think they could have. I think that there's things that could have been done better, but the thing I like the most about this is that it feels very. I think that one of my big problems with comic books these days, especially ones involving superheroes, is that they aspire to be too much. I think that one of the things it's like there's too much going on. There's too much melodrama. There's too much like big overarching. Everybody's going to die. The shit that's going on with the death in the family, which is DC pretty much bringing back a storyline that's fucking 30 years old. That everybody was like, whatever. I think that it feels very comic booky to me. It feels like, you know, like, yeah, there are problems with it, but I don't really care about those problems when I'm reading it because I'm caught up with fucking Hellboy, like, jumping off the roof next to Batman.
It
right?
feels
Like,
very pulpy comic book-y because there's Nazis and there's machines and weird
and
scientists.
the word ratsy is actually used, which is one of my favorite.
It's pitch perfect for Hellboy. Hellboy is
Agreed.
perfect in the story. It
Yeah.
reads like a Hellboy
Yeah.
story.
Absolutely.
Starman is okay. He's pretty
Yeah.
good. Batman, pretty weak.
Yeah, I love Starman, having read the whole James Robinson run of Starman. I think that he's a fantastic character, and I really enjoy him. So it was awesome to see him in this story. But I can understand if you weren't a huge Starman fan,
Then
Yeah,
how
I
it would
haven't
be
read
kind of weird.
I
because
haven't read Starman.
that
so.
series is really good. I definitely recommend it. They collected it into 6 big double-sized hardcovers, and they're
I'd like to
fantastic.
read it.
I really enjoyed it. So
I gotta say though, the art is really great, and it's interesting to read this after we read Cosmic Odyssey a few weeks ago to see how Mike Mignola draws Batman in that in 1988 versus how he draws Batman in this in whenever the hell this was published. And have to flip
mid
back
to
to
late
look at it.
90s, I think.
Yeah, so like 10 years later, like, and you
Could
can
be
see
wrong
how much
about
his
that.
style has changed and evolved.
It's also a much darker book, just
Yeah.
tonality-wise, you know.
Yeah, the
throughout.
coloring is a lot darker. And the art is really good. I really like Mignola's Gotham City.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I would love to see Mignola draw a Batman book now.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes. Well, he does one of my favorite Elseworlds, Batman's Gotham by Gaslight, which is fucking, like...
Yeah, but that's also not the modern day Gotham.
Exactly.
That's
No,
Gotham
it's
in the
true,
19th
it's
century,
true, but I think Gotham has
or
a
early 20th.
feel to it. I think Dave Lapham really got it too in City of Crime, where, like, there is a feeling to Gotham City, and I think that if you can nail that, then you can really tell a good story. And I love, like, I think one of the cool things that Mignola does is backgrounds. Like, I really like his backgrounds. He pays attention to them.
There's just this random panel. There's nobody on it. It's just a word balloon. But it's just like all these Gotham rooftops with all these chimneys, and it's really like evocative of the Gothic feeling of Gotham City.
It's very atmospheric, the whole book, I think.
I think that I will say one thing. You get to the end of the first trade, and they're like, "Joker's back. You have to take care of him."
Yeah.
And Batman kind of like fucks off to go take care of the Joker. I want to read that story. I want to know. I want to see Batman kick the crap out of the Joker.
Yeah. Well, you can. There's like 800 Batman stories.
Yeah, but I want
where
to
he
see
fights
this.
Joker.
I want to see this particular one. Don't fuck
Or
with
just
it.
pick any Joker story.
The
and
one
it
thing that
plugs
I
in.
didn't like was how Mignola draws the Joker. Like, I don't feel that it really fits. He was a little bit too misshapen. Yeah, a little too round, a little bit too goofy, weird.
Yeah.
Not menacing and angular in the way that I think the Joker
I think
should be.
that Brian Boland and Tim Sale both make him very like square and long, and
Well, I think
and that's a great look for the Joker. I think that's what we're used to.
Tim
now.
Sale tends to do this thing with the crooked teeth, though, that I don't necessarily like. I think it's like it's very exaggerated and caricaturesque, and I like it. I love it in the Long Halloween and Dark Victory. Or he's not even in He's not even in Dark Victory.
He's definitely in Long Halloween.
He's definitely in Long Halloween. But I like it. I mean, I think Brian Boland just can draw anything he wants, and I would just eat it up with my eyes. I don't really care what it is.
Well, I think back to the Killing Joke, and
Gosh,
Joker is very long and tall and lean in that book.
He's
I
got
think it's
the
what we're
long
used
chin.
to.
But yeah,
that was a defining book for the Joker.
Absolutely, yeah. And Brian Boland is a good artist to emulate if you were a young up-and-coming DC artist.
absolutely.
I'm sure that they all read that book and were like, man, I wish I could draw like Brian Boland.
So, Cade, what do you think about this? You recommended this book.
I was pleased with it. Like you said, I didn't feel like it was a Batman story. But it did give me the entrance into Hellboy that I was looking for, and the sole reason that my friend recommended it to me was to get into Hellboy after reading superhero comics for 10 years. So
yeah, I could totally see that.
When you recommended it and I asked why it was this book that they recommended you read first for Hellboy, as opposed to the right hand of whatever.
Right hand of doom, I think.
Yeah, which is the first
one?
I think that's the first.
Pretty
trade,
sure
right?
it is.
it is. No, yeah, I think
Whatever the first trade is of Hellboy. Like, I was interested to see that they recommended this first, and, being a reader of superhero comics, was the transition, like, pretty easy for you, or?
yeah, I mean, it was. And I have read other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about lots of other non-superhero stuff, but no, it was very good. It did get me hooked. I actually really liked the B-side, the ghost story.
Yeah, the ghost story is a lot better, actually, in my opinion.
I agree. I loved the Ghost story. I've never read any Ghosts before this.
It's funny. Ghost was something I was reading when it was coming out. This is like 15, almost 20 years ago now. And I remember Dark Horse was putting it out, and I saw the number one. I was looking through like comic previews or something, and I was like, I want that. This looks really cool. I can really get behind it. It's got a very noirish, like Art Nouveau kind of feel to the design of the cover.
Gangsters, she fights a lot. Right?
And
like,
I feel like it was... I mean, I liked it. I don't know how I feel about some of it. I kind of feel like
some of it took a giant leap of faith.
Yeah, I feel like there was more to kind of flesh out there. I kind of feel like Ghost just kind of bitch slaps Hellboy, and then he's like, "Ah ha ha!" I'm gonna like,
Yeah, I guess I can see that. I mean, I didn't like the Batman Starman story, I guess because I'm coming at it from a different angle than Cade. Because, I mean, I've been reading comic books for 25 years. Like, I didn't really need an introduction. And it really seems like both of these stories are kind of these very weird intersections of different things that aren't necessarily as good or better than the things that are intersecting. But if you're familiar with one, it's a good transition to other things. Like if you read superheroes, it's a good transition to Hellboy if you haven't read things like that before.
Right. Yeah.
And my problem with Hellboy wasn't the writing, it was the art. I found it really inscrutable, and I had to read one of Mignola's earlier works, Fafford and the Grey Mouser, wherein his style was a lot less extreme.
Yeah.
And that was the key to get me into Hellboy.
Yeah.
So I could totally see it coming at it from the writing direction, that this would be something that would get you into that character.
Yeah. And having not read Ghost before, this was a great introduction to that character for me, I thought.
I think she's a great character. I think the character is really interesting, and I think in an age where, you had tits and ass hanging out all over the place, she was dressed rather conservatively. I mean, she's wearing like
her tits are
out.
Her tits are hanging out, but she's wearing pants,
she has pants
and
on.
she's got a cloak on, and
there's lots of scenes of her where it's just cloak, she's very
Yeah,
atmospheric in a way that Batman is sometimes.
And I like the contrast between her and Hellboy, where Hellboy is kind of just this like, they're both very, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about showing it all off.
Yeah.
I mean, Hellboy's wearing basically panties and a trench coat.
Which is a good look for him.
It
Like,
is.
he found a look that works.
Yeah, no,
There's
totally.
some jorts or something, and
He's got his
trench
belt
coat.
and he's got some shorts because he's probably hot,
Yeah.
He's got the trench coat because he's awesome.
Yeah, I guess he is wearing, like, Lara Croft shorts in this one.
Hellboy is very, he's very detective-y, like, supernatural detective-y. I like the fact that he's not afraid to kind of be like, maybe I gotta get punched in the face a few times, but no, I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah.
I like that quality about it.
I think
like
it's something, not to make a huge departure, but something that they nailed really well in the movie, in the first one and the second one, was that, like, sometimes Hellboy just gets beat to shit for a while.
Yeah, like...
he's not the hero that is like, I'll counter your every attack and I'll definitely win.
No.
Like, no way.
We were talking before we started recording about the Constantine movie and how the fact that it's a terrible adaptation aside, it's a pretty okay movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand what people's problem with the Hellboy movies are because I fucking love those.
No, I think they're good. The
It's-
second one is weird.
I like it though.
I do like it.
It's kind of it's basically a World of Darkness movie with Hellboy in it. But Hellboy fits perfectly into the World of Darkness. It's perfect for that setup.
And it's got such a huge Guillermo del Toro fingerprint on that movie. Like, all the design is very heavily influenced by him.
And I feel kind of like I feel like there's two things going on in that movie. Like, and I enjoy it. It's another movie I've watched under the influence of illicit substances. But I feel like there's two things going on in Hellboy too. There's Hellboy, and then there's Guillermo del Toro movie. Yeah. And I feel like at some points I'm kind of like,
it's mostly chocolate and peanut butter for me.
But I like it, and it's mostly because I could I've sat through Bunraku. I could watch Ron Perlman do just about anything.
Yeah.
Like, he's Ron
Did
fucking
you watch,
Perlman.
What is it, Season of the Witch? Is that the new one?
I did. I went and saw that shit in the theater.
Actually, you and I saw that together. It was fucking terrible.
Oh my god!
I can only imagine.
Movie was so
terrible.
bad.
It was seriously.
I loved one of the trailers for that movie. It was like one of the best. It was my second favorite bad reveal at the end of a trailer. And this one, they set up this scene where, like, they have to escort the witch. They show Ron Perlman. They show this group, like, walking through the forest and, like, all this setup. And, like, 2/3 of the way through the trailer is the first time they show you Nick Cage. And but up until that point, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm listening. Ron Perlman. Witches?
Seems
yeah.
good.
And then Nick Cage shows up and you're like, what the? No!
It's the same,
And it's totally like medieval buddy cop.
It really
Ron
is.
Perlman and Nick Cage fighting witches.
I just wish that, like, I happen to know for a fact that Nick Cage is a fine fucking actor. Like, he's amazing in Raising Arizona. He's fucking brilliant in Moonstruck.
What's
Leaving
the
Las
one
Vegas.
where he's the author and he has the brother.
Adaptation.
Adaptation. I love
It's just,
that movie.
it feels to me like directors are always kind of like, well, it's Nick Cage.
Nick Cage has to pay the bills. So
No, he totally does.
sometimes that means that he makes shitty fucking movies.
Most often it means he makes shitty movies. But I just want to say, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I have to tell the worst trailer reveal of all time story. I have to tell this because I told my second favorite one. We're in the theater, and it's the trailer for, I think the movie's called Devil. And they're all in the elevator, and it's, like, pretty creepy and atmospheric, and everybody's like, yeah, and you can feel the whole audience buying into it and leaning forward, and then it says, from the mind of M. Night Shyamalan, and the entire audience, as a chorus, just goes, oh, and leans back. You can hear the audible distaste in there. Just, oh, what
M.
the...
Night Shyamalan.
He must have been in the same theater, because I think that happened whatever movie that was that I saw that trailer before.
Yeah.
God.
I feel like the exact same thing.
We easily
happened.
could have been in the same theater.
I remember going. I was like, I got really excited for the happening. I don't know why. I was like, this is going to be intense, right? And I went to see it with my girlfriend, and then we left the theater, and I was like, you know what? They should have called that movie. She goes, what? I was like, nothing's happening. That's what they should have fucking called that movie. That's what they should have fucking. I feel like they should have called that movie I'm Alfred Hitchcock by M. Night Shyamalan, but he's not. He's not Alfred Hitchcock. It's just bad. And it was basically like a giant argument for intelligent design, starring Marky Mark.
I feel really bad for the Shamhammer because all he wanted to do was make Unbreakable 2 and 3, and they wouldn't let him.
Miller of
God,
movies.
that would have.
That was supposed to be a trilogy of superheroes.
Yeah, it would have been amazing.
We're officially living in the darkest timeline because those movies don't exist.
Exactly.
No, absolutely.
No, they were like, no.
I feel like we were already living in the darkest timeline because The Godfather 3 that was supposed to get made didn't get made. But that's a whole other aside.
Also, Nick Nolte was not Han Solo like he was supposed to be.
No,
So
that should have been
definitely
Christopher Walken.
No, it was going to be Nick Nolte, though.
They should have just gotten
It was
Christopher
going to
Lloyd
be
to do it.
everybody.
They should have just had Harrison Ford and Nick Nolte could have played Chewbacca.
48 Star Wars? That's what they're showing. 48 Star Hours. That's what they... But I think M. Night Shyamalan is the Mark Miller of movies. I think he's like... He made 2 really great movies, and then everybody's like, oh, and then he was like... I'll do this.
Yeah, well, he figured out a formula, and his formula is shitty.
Well,
formula is shitty.
he really wanted to do Unbreakable 2 and 3. And
No,
they were
I know. He still wants to.
make a movie that's like The Sixth
But it
Sense. And he
doesn't-
made Signs, and that was people, that
Yeah, and then
reception
he
was
made-
all right.
then
And
he
then
made
he
The
did The Village,
Village,
which
and-
I really like and everyone else hates.
I
But
could have guessed it. I feel like I heard
Yeah.
Lady in the Water or whatever it was
I
good.
didn't finish that one.
But I think that then he made The Last Airbender.
Oh my god.
And I just don't. I will never watch, and I won't.
Yeah, you want to talk about audible size?
Yeah.
Associated with M. Night Shyamalan.
what about
I fucking
audibles?
love Avatar: The Last
Oh, me
Airbender.
too.
That is one of my favorite shows ever.
Me too.
And the moment that I heard that he was directing it, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be so fucking bad that I have to just completely ignore the existence of the movie from now on. Otherwise, every time I hear about it, I will be sad."
People still went and saw it too, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, I saw it. Bernie and I went to go see it. Bernie, who's on like the first 4 episodes of this podcast, we went to go see it, and we saw it in different theaters because of the way tickets worked out. But because we had said we were going to go see it, we're both huge fans of it. And when the art book for Avatar: The Last Airbender showed up at our work, we both bought it. And there's a foreword in there from M. Night Shyamalan, and I read it, and it's actually like really good. And his family is huge fans of the show, and he has a huge appreciation for the show. So I was like, well, maybe he won't fuck it up too bad. The opening scene of that movie, it's like there's just like really weird camera angles, and everything looks super fake. And they're walking through the snow, and I leaned to the person I saw it with, and I was like, I already hate this. Like it was already.
No, he fucks that movie in the first. It's like a world record.
It's like 10 seconds in. I'm already lost.
5 minutes into that movie, and I was just like, I want to fucking stab him with a giant dildo. Like, not something sharp. I want to make it hurt. I want him to experience.
How do you miss the mark on something like that? Like,
you already have the source material.
And it's perfect. Like,
oh my god.
So wrong?
Anyways, yes. The Guillermo del Toro Hellboy movies are amazing, and you should go and watch them if you haven't already.
He did the second one. The first one, some people don't like the first one. I don't understand why.
I fucking
really
love the first
one. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I prefer it to the second one, but they're both great.
I think Toby might be Rasputin, but don't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a pretty awesome beard.
Yeah.
But that's kind of going around at this table.
Undead necromancer from,
Alan Moore is probably Rasputin, come to think of it.
I could see that.
Yeah.
He is a wizard.
He actually does kind of look like Rasputin. I don't lie.
I do feel bad for Alan Moore.
Because he's crazy?
I don't feel bad for Alan
because
Moore.
he was right, and superhero comics died 20 years ago. Unfortunately, he accidentally revived them at the same time by writing Watchmen. He simultaneously proved that superheroes were dead and brought them back.
It's the Oedipus. It's the thing, right? It's like the fulfilling. It's like fulfilling the prophecy that you go out of your way to avoid not fulfilling, and by doing that, you fulfill it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to kill superheroes. No.
Yeah.
You did not kill superheroes, actually. You
accidentally brought them back.
You just ushered in a new age of superheroes, and you helped, but then he helped start Vertigo, and that was cool.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So between Watchmen and Swamp Thing, it was like...
I don't feel too bad for him because he's written some of the greatest comics of all
I
time.
feel bad for him because I've actually read Girls, and it is fucking awful.
Lost Girls, you mean?
Lost Girls.
Girls
is good.
It's good.
Lost Girls.
I feel bad for him because he should have died 15 to 20 years ago, and then he would be a legend.
But then he never would have written...
exactly.
Top 10.
Top 10, which is
my favorite
fucking
thing.
amazing. It was like hands down my favorite thing from him I've ever read.
All right.
I think it's him. Because he's not trying to not trying to be like meta like he is in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and he's not trying to kill a genre like he is in Watchmen, and he's just. It really feels like he enjoys this story and he enjoys telling it, and he's not trying to fucking like get you to. He's not trying to like swing you to his point of view or anything. He's just telling this kind of police procedural that just happens to take place in a world where everybody has superpowers.
Yeah, I feel like in a weird way he like channeled a combination of Mark Waid and Kurt Busiek.
Yeah, it
and
really
wrote
feels
like
that
a
way.
fantastic story. Not that he's not as good as those guys normally, because he totally is. But
evidently, I need to read Top 10 again because
I
that
thought it
is
was
not
really
my
good.
memory of it.
I
but
love
I
it.
have not read it since it was like brand new.
okay, yeah.
okay,
I mean,
yeah.
I think it also ages pretty well because
I think so.
It's it's
I
like
don't think
it was
Alan Moore ever
hyper
had that
modern
problem.
kind of at the time too.
Well, and he also did Killing Joke, which I'm a little mad at DC for after learning that in 52,
The New 52, yeah.
Barbara Gordon is no longer...
It's so much worse than that game.
Oh, it is.
They flash
so
back to
much
it.
worse
In the
than
first
that.
in the first issue of Batgirl, they flash back to it, and then they're like, "Fuck that."
Well, no, the best thing is that, like, we're going to do a reboot in which we take a very strong, powerful female character who is also disabled and who is a fascinating and integral part of the Bat family. And we're going to make her into a terrible character that is afraid of being paralyzed because in a parallel universe that we're not supposed to remember, she was paralyzed, but she remembers it, therefore drawing a lot of attention to the fact that this is a reboot in a way that it
I
shouldn't.
thought the whole thing was that she was paralyzed and then she had like experimental surgery to
No,
fix it.
it magic,
not
it
how it-
magic
It
rebooted.
magicked it away.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
That's in the first issue. It's
Yeah.
basically she gets shot and then wakes up in a. And the thing is like they kept Gail Simone at DC, which is all great and everything. But you know what? I realized what it is I don't like about Gail Simone, which is I
not
don't think
a
she
good
can
writer.
fucking write.
She's not a good writer. I'm
So it's
sorry.
kind of like, well, she fits in with the rest of the fucking DC family, doesn't
You
she?
went from the best writer you could possibly have on Batgirl with Brian Q. Miller writing the Stephanie Brown Batgirl to the worst possible
well,
writer you
you
could
know,
have
Which
on
is
Batgirl.
absolutely on my list to recommend at some point.
Oh,
the
DC,
Brian Q.
yeah.
Miller Batgirl made me love Batgirl for the first time.
Oh,
like that
yeah.
whole thing. It's 24 issues. It's fucking great.
It's everything I
But-
love about teen superheroes.
The thing
Yeah.
that I always say about
Which we didn't
Batgirl
do.
in the New 52 is that they took a character that only Barbara Gordon could be, Oracle,
yeah.
and they said, fuck that, we're going to make her Batgirl, which like at least 3 or 4 other
Yeah,
people
yeah.
could
Yeah.
be.
And better.
Well,
Like,
actually,
you-
hundreds of other
like,
people could be.
Stephanie Brown was an amazing Batgirl
Yeah.
already. Like, you had 2 amazing characters, and you said, fuck you, Stephanie Brown, cap her in the head, throw her out in the the dumpster behind DC editorial,
Yeah.
just so that you could ruin Oracle by making her be Batgirl again, which she hasn't been in like 20-something years.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this statement, but the only way that they can rescue this is by making Chloe Sullivan as Watchtower in place of Oracle.
Oh God.
Is that a Smallville thing?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't ever
that
watched it.
I just feel like the Bat family. I think, and in Gotham, the only compelling female superheroes I've read, and I'm going through the New 52, are the Birds of Prey. I think that's being handled really well because it's fun and they're wearing bodysuits. They're not wearing like their tits and asses aren't hanging out, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, they
it's
also
a lot
took
of
that
fucking
book
fun.
away from Gale.
Well, that's which is good.
Which they had rebooted Birds of Prey right before the New 52.
You're right.
And it was awful
because,
and it was written by Gail Simone.
And I think that DC just, it's like, oh, well, Batwoman is good. It's being written by J.H. Williams the third. It's good. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. If you like reading about female Batman, why can't we have a character that's not female Batman? Why can't we have a character that tells Batman to go fuck himself, that she's going to do what she wants to do? And her name is the Fuck Batman Girl or something. I just like, why do all female characters have to exist as...
They could call her Catwoman.
They could call it Catwoman. Yeah, right. Another wonderfully fucking. We're not even gonna go.
Yeah,
because like Judd Winnick. What the fuck happened?
Yeah, I don't know, man. He had it all together, and then I don't know.
Batwing is good.
He needs to go back to Barry Ween.
He does need to go back to Barry Ween. It is, or Exiles, or fucking Green Arrow, which I really like.
Exiles was good.
He's written a couple of my favorite Batman stories. I'm not gonna lie, they're probably not top 5. They're probably not top 10. But I really liked Under the Red Hood, and if it hadn't been tied in with Infinity,
it would have been perfect.
It would have been perfect. It would have been great.
I just don't understand what he's doing with Catwoman. I've talked to a few women about it, and I really would like it. We're at some point in the future. I don't want to timestamp it or anything, but we're going to do. We've been talking about doing a special girls' night, because we think that's cool, and we have some great people in mind. But and I'm hoping they'll talk about it. But I read it, and I was just kind of like, this doesn't read as sexually free. This doesn't read as empowered. This reads as, we're going to get as much TNA on the page as possible. And I think, I've gotten some good interpretations from it. And I think when read in the correct light, Catwoman reads as a really broken character. But once again, that just means you've depowered her. Yeah. You've depowered her, and you've made her like a slave to her own broken nature or something. And this is somebody who could stand toe-to-toe with Batman and be like, hey, it's my city too.
So you're saying that Catwoman has female hysteria?
It feels that. I don't know. I don't know what the hell. I'd like to ask Judd Winnick what he's doing, because I don't think he's doing anything good with it. It's very sad to me, because I have an 11-year-old, and these are books. It's like, what do I fucking, when she goes, where are all the girls, Dad? And I'm like, sorry, kiddo.
Here, read this Batgirl that's no longer in continuity.
Right?
Read this Supergirl that's no longer in continuity.
Because I liked Cassandra Cain, too. I'm reading Bruce Wayne Murderer right now, and it's one of my favorite. Murderer.
She's such an interesting character.
She is so cool in there.
For fucking years. 5 years.
And it's really a shame how they ruined that character later on. And from what I understand, even later than that, redeem her to a great extent.
She goes through arcs of being really great and really
weird. From what I understand, 1 year later, when that happened after Infinite Crisis, she was incredibly verbose. She was a supervillain. It was really fucked up.
Some weird stuff happened during that.
But later. She got better.
Yeah.
I just think that it goes to show you that the people that know least at DC what needs to happen and what is going on are the people in charge of everything.
Well, hopefully Superman, Man of Steel does terribly and they all get fired.
Oh God,
and
please!
We can have a new DC universe next year.
How do we make it up to all our fans out there for not having any relatable female characters or not having any female writers except for Gail Simone, and basically hypersexualizing all our females? Let's get a known homophobe to write one of our biggest titles. Everybody in agreement. Yes,
I was talking about the movie, but
you were talking about
that too.
The movie.
Yeah, I hope the movie.
I want the movie to be good though, because I want a Superman movie.
I heard a rumor, which is probably not true because it would be too good. But I've been dreading them releasing a Justice League movie because they want their own Avengers. They want to make $1 billion, and they don't want to put the legwork into doing it. Right. And I know it's going to be terrible because they haven't introduced 90% of the characters who would be on the Justice League. But the rumor that I heard that actually made me excited is that they're aggressively courting Christopher Nolan to do not the Justice League, but a World's Finest movie. Yeah, and I think that would be the perfect solution. You do Superman, you do a World's Finest movie, you set up a phase 2, you bring out Wonder Woman, The Flash, and Martian Manhunter. Then you go into a Justice League movie in 2016.
But Chris Nolan is not the man to do that.
Well, and this is the thing. I saw this on Reddit the other day. It was like, Chris Nolan's going to bring back Christian Bale as Batman, and then they're going to do a thing after Superman comes out. And I'm like, so there's I think, my daughter also believes in the fucking Tooth Fairy. That's not going to happen either. Christopher Nolan is not the man that needs to do.
No, and the problem is
a fucking a World's Finest movie.
We talked about this when we were talking about the Avengers movie, when we talked about superheroes, but what Christopher Nolan's doing with Batman is admirable and interesting, is that he's setting it in a world that we believe could exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the minute you add an alien who's superpowered and can move planets powered by the sun into that, it breaks his whole universe down.
Well,
it's unfortunate, but I would love to see a World's Finest movie. We already know the origin of Batman. You don't have to relaunch it. Just put a different guy in the Batman suit. Get a different director to do it.
I'm less enthusiastic about Chris Nolan because I really didn't even like his Batman movies very much.
Yeah,
but the idea of a World's Finest movie,
I think is where you need to go with
exactly the solution that DC needs.
Absolutely.
I totally
Absolutely.
agree with
I think that I like Nolan's Batman movies as movies.
Right.
As adaptations of a Batman, as stories about Batman, they're shit. As a movie about the exploration of superheroes and what Batman represents, they're great. Yeah. Because clearly if you look at them in terms of Batman, he's talking about Superman. He should have made 3 Superman movies. Yeah. Batman has never been that. If fucking Jim Gordon's like, oh, you need to leave because you can't take the rep for this, Batman's like, Gotham is my city. I will do what I want. If the cops don't like that, they can kiss my ass, right? I am the knight. I am fucking Gotham. Yeah. I'm going to do my thing. And we know this because this was his entire fucking beginning in Gotham City.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, this is just...
The thing to me about Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy is that it's over. It's done.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was amazing, but it needs to end on the high note that was the end of Dark Knight Rises.
And it's not the comic book movie that Warner Brothers needs, that DC needs.
Right.
Well, he's producing The Man of Steel, so we'll see how The Man of Steel is.
Yeah.
I'm you got to go from there. I've heard that it's going to be really good. There's been some early screenings.
I've heard the screenings.
There's some very positive things are being said about
What I heard at Emerald City was that the movie, the trailers don't... the movie's a lot better than the trailers would make it seem to. And I think that's great, because if you make a solid Superman movie now, then you come back and you get a movie that's a lot, like, perfect, to be perfectly honest here, the Batman movie you want to set up World's Finest is closer to Tim Burton's Batman than it is to Chris Nolan's Batman.
Yeah, well, it's closer to a Batman movie that's never been made, to be honest. I mean, if you want a Batman movie that's going to fit in a continuity with aliens and the supernatural and, you know, all the stuff that needs to exist for a JLA movie to happen, like, it has to be a lot different Batman than they've ever made in the movies.
Well, but I mean, I don't think you need to do that. You just do it. You do a JLA movie against Luthor. You do it against Brainiac.
Oh, no, I don't think they need to make a Batman movie first. I just think that there hasn't been a characterization of Batman that is close enough to a JLA Batman.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I would agree with that.
I don't know. I have high hopes for DC, but I think that they so badly want to get in on Marvel's cash cow of Avengers and 8 movies in between, and then another Avengers, and then
the Marvel is just making a lot of the right moves now. And that was a brilliant move.
They put in the legwork, which is exactly what DC doesn't want to do.
Yeah. Well, and their comics are not, writing off their long-term fans in the way that DC's comics are.
Marvel is in a really good place right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they have a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really not a superhero person, but I'm finding more and more, like, I'm attracted to what's going on the Marvel shelf. Like, there's a few things that I'm checking out. Yeah.
They're also not rebooting the universe every 6 years.
Well, they're making smart choices. They're opening it up. They're brand to new blood, which is what the industry desperately needs. They have people like Kelly Sue DeConnick, Mark Waid, Rick Remender doing amazing things with their characters.
They've got
Jason
Aaron.
They've got Matt Fraction with Hawkeye, Jason Aaron.
Am I correct that I heard that Jason Aaron is going to be doing Wolverine?
I don't know.
He has been doing Wolverine. I think he needs to maybe move on and do something else. I like his Wolverine. I don't know
who's doing Wolverine right now or who's going to.
Maybe it wasn't Wolverine. I just saw something about Jason Aaron doing a new title, relaunching at #1. I thought it was Wolverine, but maybe I'm wrong.
Anyway, well, they've also got Hickman too, which we've talked about a bunch of times
Hickman's
on here.
great.
We love, and then Mark Waid, who we talk about all the time, who's
just
been
amazing.
killing it on Daredevil.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right, anything you guys want to talk about more about the Hellboy?
Yeah, I think that wraps up Hellman, Batboy, Starboy.
Ghost.
Manboy Man and Starboy Hell.
Ghost Manboy Man.
Hellstar Bat.
Yeah, if you haven't read Hellboy before, if you're not really coming at comics from that angle, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll ease the transition. But you should... Hellboy is a great... If you're looking for something that is outside of the realm of superheroes, maybe you want to change it up, but you don't want to get too far outside of that, Hellboy is a great place to go.
I would definitely
it's
say...
a lot of fun. you still got that kind of like rock'em, sock'em, beating up Nazis, which everybody loves, feel to it. But it's well written, and it's you can totally tell that Mignola's heart is in it, and I love his art.
And it's got a really nice Lovecraftian bent to it.
Yeah, which is nice.
And I think that if you are a superhero reader and you want to read Hellboy, coming at it from this angle is a great start. I think this trade, Masks and Monsters, is really good for that. But I think that if you're familiar with stuff like Sandman or Alan Moore's Swamp Thing or Lucifer or any of the Vertigo type stuff, Constantine, yeah. I think that going at it from Hellboy Trade 1, like you're gonna jump right in. Like it's very literary and it's very like heavily influenced by folklore and the religious bent, and it's like
mythology. Yeah,
absolutely. And so I think that if you're more familiar with that kind of stuff, maybe jumping in with the first trade, which I think is a little bit stronger than this trade.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Well, because it allows, I think, Hellboy to become a little bit more fleshed out. But if you read this and you like Hellboy in this, then you will love this.
Also, don't forget about BPRD, which is excellent, and also the miniseries he did, Witchfinder, which was really good, set in the same universe.
I really have a hard time saying anything bad about most, 99% of the Mignola canon.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like the writing so much in parts of this. It wasn't written by Mignola. It was only drawn by him.
Yep.
So yeah, check out Mike Mignola.
And if
in whatever form you want to find that.
And
if you like Starman, I definitely recommend James Robinson's Starman. It's very dated because it was early 90s. It was one of the things that brought about a huge legacy in the DC universe because he brought back the reverence for the Justice Society. And it came before he rebooted the Justice Society book, and it's the reason they gave him the Justice Society book, because he handled those legacy characters with huge reverence, and he made them into really interesting characters. Yeah. So it's a great series.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
All right.
Rex, recommendations.
Go ahead.
Well, I have the Ghost Omnibus, and that's what I brought this week. This is good stuff. I feel like it was... I think the first issue hit in 94, I want to say. And what drew me to it was Adam Hughes was doing the work. The first issue was in 94. And what really did it for me was like I said, Adam Hughes was doing the art on the covers, and they were absolutely beautiful. But it seemed like a really cool idea. I really liked the idea of this kind of noirish, like femme fatale, dressed all in white, like 45s, paranormal, just kicking ass and taking names, and I think it's a lot of fun. I really like it.
Can I interrupt for just a second? I remembered a great thing that happened in the Ghost Hellboy thing, and it was a awesome moment of show me, don't tell me Ghost's power set, where she has like a metal pipe in her hand.
Oh, no, it's the leg of the chair.
Yeah, and she phases it through Hellboy's arm and then lets go of it, and it becomes corporeal again, and it's like stuck in his arm. And it was a fantastic moment. There was no line of dialogue that's like, no thought bubble of her being like, well, if I release this, then it will become solid, or no one ever, like, that doesn't come up. It just happens in the art. Like, they just show you one of her powers, and that's another reason I thought that was a really good introduction to Ghost. Having never read it before, I was like, how were her guns real, and why do the bullets kill people if they're ghost guns? Like, I didn't understand until that panel, and then I was like, now I get it.
That actually brings up a really important question that I have. Mm-hmm. Kitty Pryde has had a bunch of different code names, starting with, I think, like Sprite, and then later Shadowcat.
Yeah.
Why did they never call her Ghost? And I say never, and maybe they did.
Because
and I
think there were other characters that were.
Because that's a perfect fucking code name for her.
Men?
Nah, there wasn't. Maybe there is now.
But I have no idea.
Not at the time.
I think Shadowcat is more of a Chris Claremont thing.
Probably that's probably the answer. It's Chris Claremont.
Yeah, I don't see him like ever saying Ghost. Shadowcat.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question.
If you're listening, anybody out there that knows the answer, you let us know. We have an email.
See, now I need to go back in time and we can ask him that.
We do. I'm going back now. I'm asking it, and he's giving me a look.
Stop pretending you have a time machine again. I've told you to stop doing this.
Oh, God. You're no fun. Anyways, I think the interesting thing that's about this is that it deals with issues of like gender and like sexism and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really weird on top.
Whatever the trimming was when that was published was done really, really badly. There's all these like little paper tags at the top.
And there's a part that's definitely like it was stuck together, and I had to like rip it apart. But I only paid $5 for it, and it's a $20 book.
Yeah, I love these little DC omnibus.
The Dark Horse.
Yeah,
I mean, I love them.
Yeah, they did all the Aliens versus Predator. And
this is why it's awesome.
Joe is holding up the book for me to see, and I'm seeing ass, and then I'm seeing tits.
No.
And then there's 3 little kids who are dressed up as Hellboy, Madman, and the Mask.
Yeah,
it's the Halloween episode or issue, which I thought was good. I mean, I think tits and ass are something you're going to...
It is a 90s comic.
It is a 90s comic, and it's something that... Male gaze is something that's kind of unavoidable in the industry. I don't think that's a good thing. But I think as far as it goes, this doesn't... I think it handles it really well because there are also scenes where she's ghostly and she looks ghosty.
She's just in her like cloak, very like Batman when he has his cape all the way wrapped around him, kind of poses.
And I definitely think that there is something to the idea that like... I'm not sure. I actually brought it almost as much to see what the reaction would be to it as because I think it's good, but I enjoy it. Yeah. The art is fantastic. I think it's written well. She's got team ups with like a few characters like X and Barbed Wire.
Wow, Barbed Wire.
Yeah. So this is definitely 90s Dark Horse. Yeah. Like we're not fucking around here, but I think it's good. I really like it, and I think we've all everybody got an introduction to Ghost in the Monsters and Masks and Monsters trade. So I think this would kind of be the natural thing to go to next.
Continuation.
Yeah. Right. I think this would give you a nice, like, oh, Ghost. It seems interesting. So.
All right, very cool.
I brought something that's actually pretty different from basically everything else that we've recommended thus far, and pretty different from everything else I have in my collection. It's Stagger Lee by Derek McCulloch and Shepard Hendricks. It's actually historical creative nonfiction. It's about a folk song, sometimes Staggerly, sometimes Stackily, Stackoli, Stackerly, Stagoli. But it's all about the same guy, a guy named Lee Sheldon, I think it is, who basically the one point that they all agree on is in 1895, this guy Stagger Lee killed Billy Lyons in a fight over a hat. And so it's kind of the story of the historical figure around which the songs are based. But because we really don't know a lot of the details, it's also the history of the songs and how they evolved and the different versions and the different way it's told and how the historical narrative changes. And they're all kind of intermixed together. So as you're going through, you start with Stagger Lee as a boy and kind of follow his life through. And as you're following his life through, you're learning all of these different stories about him and how they change and mutate and flow together. And it's really an interesting narrative. It's printed in brown and white. And it's also really a story about the Southern Black experience in the 19th century and how that evolves. It's a really, really interesting story. It's told in a way that is different from a lot of comic narratives. But it was recommended to me by Eric Troutman, who's a friend of the show, a number of years ago, and I really have to thank him for recommending it to me because it's so different from 99% of everything I've read in comics. I would equate it in many ways to like Mouse. It's that kind of story.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit, just in you telling me about it, about this kind of stuff like Capote in Kansas, or there's another one that's similar that I can't think of, where it's like, It's about things that happened, but they're kind of like there's some assumption. Union Station. It's kind of expanded on in a little bit, where it's like, well, we're gonna fill in a few of the gaps that we're not exactly sure.
Right.
And
well, that's I think
it's mostly historical.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of a work like that. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and the art is really interesting because I mean it's all it's duotone. There's very little shading. It's all inked, and so it's there's a lot of the story that's just told through the pictures and the way in which it's drawn.
Very cool. Yeah, it also kind of in a weird way reminds me of Parker. Not in the genre or in the art style, but just in the way that it's printed, and it looks like there's lots of panels without words and no captions, that it's very like cinematic in a way.
It really is.
So
I mean, it's kind of like reading a comic book documentary.
Yeah.
Like a really interesting documentary.
Yeah, that's why I say it reminds me of Capote in Kansas or Union Station. They kind of both have that feel.
Yeah, so that's Stagger Lee.
All right.
Stagger Lee. Nick Cave song, too. Good.
Okay, so my recommendation this week is a little unorthodox way of doing things. I've been listening to some of the old episodes, and so I want to recommend Earth X, since that was never finished.
Yes.
That's good, yeah.
That is definitely one that we need to talk about.
We need to revisit.
Well, you guys weren't on it when we did that one.
Yeah,
and last time, Joe and I were the only ones that read it.
Yeah.
So we talked about it kind of, but we didn't want to spoil it for Matt and Bernie, who hadn't finished it yet.
Yeah, no, it's a monster. It
is pretty long.
So good.
And it's a little dense, and I really wanted to reread it at the time. I remember on the episode saying that there was so much more to delve into and read. So
I haven't read it in a really long time, so I'd like to read it again.
Yeah. So give us the elevator pitch, even though we all know what it is. For our listeners.
Well, maybe some of our listeners haven't listened to the old episodes because they haven't sucked because we're not on it.
Yeah. Because you don't, I was handing out cards at Comic-Con at Emerald City, and I think I was telling people to start with episode 7.
Because that's the one you're on?
No, I'm on 5.
Okay.
I was like, I think they get good around 7 or 8 or 9 or something.
Was I on 7?
I think you're on
9. I thought was your first one.
Something like that. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Numbers don't care. You were on episode N, where N is equal to some integer.
Thanks, Joe.
I think I might have. No, I think I was on 7 because I think that was Batman Venom.
It was Batman Venom,
and that was my first one.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, so my count is totally off.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
that's cool. Well. That's what it.
Maybe this isn't even episode 19. You don't know.
Episode.
We don't know.
It's episode.
We never said what episode it was.
Doesn't matter.
So you'll find out. You'll know because of the intro.
It's a quality episode. That's all you need to know.
Episode star.
So I've never actually read Earth X or finished it. Anyways, I read like maybe the first 2 or 3 issues.
Earth.
So one of you guys should probably do the.
X is the story of a man and his dog, and the lengths they go to get. No, it's not.
It's not at all.
It's the story of the Marvel Universe.
It is
Elseworlds.
an in-depth, almost what-if look at a Marvel Universe where every... I mean, it's exhaustive. Pretty much every part of the Marvel Universe is looked at, explained, and used to tell this incredibly far-reaching story.
Well, basically, what is it? It's like 20-something years in the future.
Yeah.
And everybody on Earth has superpowers, and they reveal why in the story. But that's really just a framing device.
Yeah.
It's Captain America, and he's fighting a new Red Skull, who's this kid who has like mind control powers. But it's a framing device for basically taking all of the disparate elements of the Marvel Universe and tying them together in this incredibly organic way.
Yeah.
That really explains and justifies the universe as a whole.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's
in a way that had not been done before this came out.
If you are in love with comic books the way that we are, this is your like salami sandwich, right? This is it. This is what you're looking for because this is just done in such an exhaustive way, and he uses characters in a way that for an industry that gets stale, for an industry that has characters in it that have 30 or 40 years of continuity, it's absolutely amazing. They all feel very new and fresh and amazing, and it's a really hard hitting story. I think it's probably one of my favorite things.
And he does some interesting things that have been ripped off and used again since then.
Totally.
That at the time were just kind of mind blowing. Things that he does with Reed Richards, for example.
I mean the whole
It's a really interesting look at it. It's told through the eyes of Machine Man, who's hanging out with the Watcher
with
and,
Uatu.
Yeah.
The Watcher.
And it's a really interesting look at the Marvel Universe. It's a fantastic what-if story, and I think that it is very interesting and a great counterpoint to Marvel's, which we just read.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
if you are a fan of the Marvel Universe, you should absolutely read it. I don't know that it's for everyone, though. I definitely don't feel like I would recommend it for everyone. But
it's more on the intellectual side. It's
definitely
not a
for people who are familiar with the Marvel Universe.
It helps to have a exhaustive knowledge of
specifically
Marvel.
If you're familiar with the Marvel Universe as of like 10 years ago.
Correct.
Like if you read the Marvel Universe and you gave up on comics 10 years ago and you're listening to this podcast so you can get back into comics again, Earth X is the perfect thing to read.
Yeah, I like it.
That sounds like me.
Yeah. I think that you should definitely sit down and try and read the first issue. If you can't get through it, then you're probably not going to be able to. But like Alex Ross did, the character designs.
The art is amazing.
The art is absolutely amazing. And the story is really... everybody gets a little bit of love. And the sequel, Universe X, is good too. It's not quite as good.
Universe X is not as good as Earth X, but still good. Paradise X, I haven't read, but from what I understand, it's really kind of mediocre.
I've been trying to get through it for like literally 4 or 5 years, and I get to the same place and then I stop. So I actually need to sit down and read it. I just know that like Iron Man 2099 is in it or something. The guy with the gear things here.
I don't think there was an Iron Man 2099.
There was some alternate universe Iron Man that had like. Anyways, that's not a it's.
Anyway, what did you bring, Chard?
I brought X-Men Deadly Genesis and X-Men Deadly Genesis, and this is Ed Brubaker, and this is his first X-Men book, and this sort of kicks off. This is where I think people should start if they want to read the last 5 or so years of X-Men comics. So if you want to read up to Avengers versus X-Men and read through that whole Hope saga and all of that, like I think that this is the perfect jumping on point. The story is essentially that there was when they launched the new X-Men team with Wolverine and Storm and Colossus and Nightcrawler way back in the day, the reason that team existed was because the original X-Men team was on an island called Krakoa.
Yep.
And they were stuck. They were trapped there by a monster. Well, this is a bit of a retcon, and it turns out that wasn't the first team that he sent there. He borrowed another mutant team that was trained partially by Xavier and partially by Moira McTaggart. And that something happens to that team, and it wasn't good, and some of those characters come back, and they want Charles to answer for the stuff that he did to them, essentially. And this is kind of the kicking off point for everyone kind of wondering how much of what we know about Charles Xavier is true. How much has he been manipulating us? He's so powerful. Has these mental telepathic powers. Like, how much is reality and how much is, these lies we've been fed by Charles, and has he ever manipulated our minds? Are we ever going to know?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
And read the old X-Men stories.
Exactly.
Charles Xavier is a dick from day fucking one.
And so this is kind of Cyclops' waking up moment, and he asks, well, at the end of this is not really a spoiler. He asks Charles to leave the Institute, and this is why Cyclops has been in charge for the last X amount of years, leading all of the X-Men teams, is because this is the falling out story with Charles Xavier. And it's a fascinating read. It introduces some really interesting new X-Men mutants.
So was that before New X-Men?
No, it was after New X-Men. During New X-Men, Charles Xavier was away or something, right?
Wasn't he in space?
Yeah, something was going on with Charles, so he wasn't
During New
there.
X-Men?
During New X-Men.
He was Oh,
Was he
yeah, no,
dead, or
he's
was he,
up.
like,
No,
trapped
he's
in-
chilling out with Lilandra.
Okay, so he comes
But
back
it's not
after New X-Men.
really him. Or is it?
Yeah.
You'll have to read New X-Men to find
He
out.
comes
And
back
good luck with that.
after that.
No, thank you.
And they did a
It's
big
good,
kind of
it's
like
good.
reboot after that, and it
Yeah,
was like
where it just
Age
became-
of X-Men or something. I don't remember what it's called.
No,
And-
okay, so wait. The New X-Men doesn't predate Onslaught, does it?
No. So
Is it the
New
Heroic
X-Men,
Age that
yeah,
they did?
New X-Men and the Chuck Dixon Uncanny X-Men were taking place at the same time.
Right.
And after both of those ended, I think you're right, it is called the New Age. It's the one where Rachel Gray is on the main team.
Okay.
And they go back to having like the blue team and the gold team, and Wolverine's on all of them. And
Which
they
is
kind of like
odd.
X-Men just went down the shitter when Wolverine switched from his brown and tan outfit back to the stupid gold and blue one.
Oh, you know what? I like both of them.
I like a lot
I think
of X-Men
that
stuff.
I think that X-Men went to shit when people decided that Wolverine was fucking like the best thing ever, and
Yeah.
he's not.
Well,
he's
I
not,
don't-
and I will fucking take on anybody. You want to go? Let's go.
I don't-
Let's go.
Joe,
I
are
don't
you
think
trying to
that
tell
that-
us that Wolverine is the Vegeta of the X-Men?
He's fucking like I like Wolverine. I like Jason Aaron's Wolverine, and I like Joss Whedon's Wolverine. And I'm sorry, but Wolverine, he's fucking down on the bottom of the like.
But to
It's
be
like
honest,
Wolverine
though-
fights Cyclops. Cyclops pulverizes him. He gets back up. He pulverizes him again. All right, because Wolverine's
Yeah.
got no distance attack. Wolverine fights Storm. She electrocutes him.
Well, you have to select him as a projectile assist.
Yeah, and then he'll do X-Claw.
No, it's like
Sucker Barrage, X-Claw, X-Claw, Sucker Barrage. Yeah, you obviously aren't playing the game right, Joe.
Dude,
or you would
am.
know that Wolverine is a much better character than Cyclops.
He's versatile.
yeah,
he's
he's
not
got that
versatile.
drill
All you
claw,
have to do
drill
is just,
claw.
all you have to do is jump, and you
Yeah.
can dodge all
You've
Cyclops'
got
attacks.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I think that the problem was never that they thought Wolverine was too cool. It was just that they were like overusing him on every team. Took away from the fact that there are like a bunch of X-Men that are really cool that they're not using because they're just using X-Men or Wolverine on every X-Men team.
Mhm.
You know, when they start using Warpath, that's in the New Age.
Let's do it.
You know,
Let's do it.
and I liked that because it was like, hey, here's a character that's basically Wolverine. He still is like, I'll kill anything that gets in my way, and I fight
Except
stuff.
that he doesn't have claws, and
But
he
he's not
has a
Wolverine.
feather.
He's just like a different guy who's also interesting and has interesting storylines. And when he's in X-Force, I think it's really good.
Wolverine is only interesting when he's not on the X-Men.
I
He was
think that is
incredibly interesting in
absolutely
X-Force
wrong.
when Remender was writing him.
That's it.
Agreed.
He's not on the
It
X-Men.
was also interesting in the previous incarnation of X-Force, and a lot of the times he's a fine character. The problem isn't that he's not a good character. It's
People
just
don't
that, like,
write him
hey,
well.
let's put him in every single book.
I
That
did-
not only deters from him as a character, but every other character in the X-Men universe.
I did love that one time he got beat up by an 8-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was pretty special.
I feel like Wolverine's fine, but this story isn't about Wolverine. He just happens to be there. This story is about Cyclops. So you, as a fan of Cyclops,
no, I'm a huge
should
Cyclops
really
fan,
like that
dude. I'm
because
down.
he
I'm
was
super
the
down.
only one that was there when they went to Krakoa the first time, lost.
Right,
he
and
gets
came back.
away, then he goes back again. So this story is about his experience with that and losing that first team and starting the new team and like all this manipulation that's been happening. There's moments in here where Professor Xavier is training people in his own mind so that they feel like months have gone by when it's only been several hours, and he's like, what kind of manipulation have you been doing to us? Why did you think it was okay to do what you've done? And so this is a really interesting story. I think it is a great jumping on point for the next huge chunk of X-Men, which I quite enjoy. When the new baby is born and all the fallout from that, and Hope in the Cable series where he jumps forward into the future, and the X-Force series, which is excellent, and the X-Factor series written by Peter David, which was really good. So there's a lot of good X-Men stuff that comes after this.
Right.
That was
So-
a really good series.
The
Peter,
X-Factor?
the Peter David X
Oh,
Factor with
loved
Jamie
it.
Madrox
Oh, yeah.
and that whole crew.
Yeah.
And they bring back Monet St. Croix from
Yeah.
Gen X.
Mhm.
It's good.
So this sets up that whole era of the X-Men universe, and I think that this is a great jumping on point. Very interesting stuff. And if you want to read anything that happened in the last 5 years of X-Men, this is where I would start. Personally, a lot of people say that I'm kind of anal and start way too far back for events that happened a year ago. That's like a 30-plus book reading list to get
Yeah.
from here to X-Men versus Avengers. But That's how I like to do things.
I mean, you're basically talking about most of 10 years worth of comics.
Absolutely. Yeah, this came out in, let me check the date on this really quickly.
I'm going to say 2004. That's just a guess.
2005, first printing as a trade. So 2004 is probably correct.
There you
for
go.
Issues on this. So yeah,
All right.
a long time of X-Men, but a lot of good stuff happened in that 5 years. So
So that was right after New X-Men changed back into X-Men
So
and
there's-
kept the same numbering.
I think they should have
there's
gone back to the
5
old
trades between that and this, I think.
Oh, okay.
So there's about a year, if not 2,
Probably a couple of years.
of X-Men after New X-Men, but
generally,
before this.
generally trades are like 6 issues.
Yeah, but I think X-Men was coming out more than once a month.
Well,
at that
there's
point.
probably more than one X-Men book.
Yeah, so I think there's some time though. It's not immediately after New X-Men because this is after House of M.
Right.
So there's
Yeah.
like that era happened in between New X-Men and this.
Okay.
Okay.
So there is a little bit of time in between those two.
So, Joe, what are you voting for?
I really want to vote. I was going to vote for Stagger Lee. I totally forgot Cade was bringing Earth X. I really want to vote for Earth X. But I still want to read Stagger Lee.
Well, you can
That's
borrow
fine.
Stagger Lee if you want to.
I'm going to vote for Earth X.
All right.
I'm going to vote for
I
Earth
am
X.
also voting for Earth X.
All right. Well, I'm going to vote for Ghost
Okay.
because it doesn't matter.
Wait, but then if I vote for Ghost,
Oh wait,
then we're
hey, yeah,
tied.
Cade, you vote first. What do you want to read?
All of them?
Well, Panshin.
I'll just say X-Men Deadly Genesis.
All right.
Because that's
Okay.
And I'll
right
vote for
after I
Ghost.
stopped
There
reading
you go.
X-Men.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do Earth X again. I think it's great.
It definitely did not get an appropriate play.
No,
Yeah,
it's
we
not.
did. We
I
talked
mean,
about
it's
we talked about it a little bit, but
I mean,
we definitely couldn't go into as much depth because we were
Yeah.
trying to go spoiler free on that.
Well,
one,
and I
so-
think we hit a point where we're just like, la, 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 la.
of course, well, we
So-
always do.
I definitely had it on my list to do a bonus episode
Yeah,
at some point.
as
But if
well.
we're just going to do it on a main episode, that's fine.
That
Well, we
works for me,
can,
too.
I think maybe,
Nah,
yeah.
yeah, let's just do it on
Let's
the main
just do it on a
episode. It's
main
easy.
episode. It might run a little long, but
Yeah,
I think
it's a big
worth
book.
it. It is.
It's like what,
It
12
is.
issues, 13 issues, something like that.
I
like that.
think it's 12 with a 0. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Well, that's the same as the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
Which I read in one
Long-
night.
Long
But Long
Halloween's
Halloween
a
is
lot
cake
faster.
as compared to
Yeah.
Earth X as an entire feast
Like
of Marvel.
if
you
Long
just wait.
Halloween is like banana bread, then
Mm-hmm.
Earth X is like fucking fruit cake.
Yeah.
Just wait. One of these days, I'm going to recommend 7 fucking volumes of this one manga that I'm not going to name. It's going to be
Yeah.
a surprise.
And we just won't
But
go
it's
for
excellent.
it because it's too much to read. Yeah, well, I would love to recommend Akira, but that's way too much reading for us on here. Anyway, so next time we are going to do Earth X.
So, yeah, read it.
Redux. All right, read it, guys. See you
Bye.
later.
Bye!